Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Hurley Investments Market View commentary for the last Monday of September 2024. Glad to have you guys with us. I've got a couple things I'm looking forward to going over with you tonight. It will be this will not be one of the longer webinars that we have, but I think it's going to be rather important. Short people tonight. We don't have a whole lot. It looks like 15 roughly. That's most likely due to the hurricane, as I just said. Boy, it sounds like from Tennessee up to Pennsylvania. I know the Carolinas were hit really hard. Prayers out to those people, and boy, it looks like a war zone with all the trees I saw and pictures I have from friends out in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. So here we go. Easy first question for the group. I'm looking for some participation today, but easy couple of quick questions that I want you guys to think. So first question to the group. Tell me about Social Security in regards to when you should take it. I'm getting a lot of questions right now in regards to when should you take Social Security. We've got some more people coming in. We're over 26 now. Good to see that some of you are getting in. Good to see some of you have weathered the storms out there on the East Coast. So, question for you guys. Tell me about Social Security in regards to when you should take it. I think it's a clear, no questions asked time frame, but I'm going to let you guys tell me. So that's really a neat comment there. Someone just said, at the age that is recommended on the piece of paper they send you. So let me ask this question. Does that mean you should trust the government on what's best for you? And there you go, never. So it's interesting. So they give you a paper that actually tells you like 3 different time frames. The early, like the 62 and a half, the 65, and the 72 and a half. We have another individual that said, and I found it very, very interesting. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it like this. Thank you for that first comment. Love it. Second comment is, take Social Security late until 70 for the max amount. And that was a very interesting one as well, because with all due respect, I found this article. In fact, I'm going to give me a quick second. I need to you can start to take your benefits. Now that I found anything, you can start to take your benefits at age 62 through 70, right? And most people have said, hey, take it through 70. At 70, you get it better. I always thought it was 62, 65, 67, or 70, right? And the question is, which one is better for you? I'm going to use some fictitious numbers that come off of mine. At 62, you can get 1,400. At 67, you can get 1,768. And at 70, boy, that's really hard to see, huh? At 70, I can get 2,144. And that's, let me get the real number. All right, so there's some dollar figures to go, right? If I wait 8 years, I'm going to get roughly 50% more. Correct? Ooh, Lee, good comment. So here's the question that probably should be most asked. How much longer does Social Security have? How much Social Security do we have? Maud, I agree with you. Maud just said, I think they'll keep printing for forever. I mean, that's the easiest way to look at it. But right now, the number is 2035. The trust fund is expected to run out by 2035. The short answer is for Clinton, the Clinton years that we had all those good years, we had that roaring economy. He borrowed from Social Security to balance the budget. It's supposed to be paid back. It wasn't. So for those of you who are being political people, kind of funny because it was created and hoarded by the Democrats, and then the Republicans never paid it back when they had the opportunity. Equally at fault. So you have until 2035. Where mathematically you want it. $2,035, no more payments can come from the trust fund, as it will be at 0. Second comment, waiting 8 years equals 1,464, 64 and 68. That's kind of weird. Times 12 months times 8 years equals, and we'll do a little calculation on this one. 1464 times 12 times 8 equals 140,544 that you have to make up 1,040, 544 divided by, well, it should be divided by the difference between the two, right? 1646 minus 2144, 680 divided by 680 equals 140544. Is that number right? 2144 minus the 1464 is equal to 680. 140544 divided by 680 equals 206.6 months to make that up. You divide that by 12. You have to live, oh, for crying out loud, 202.6 divided by 12, 17.2, there you go. You have to live 17.2 years past 70 to break even for taking the money later. For years, I have been recommending to people, take the money when it comes. We thought it would run out somewhere closer to 2050 back in the day. My recommendation was, if you don't think you're going to live to 87.2 years, $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. If you're not going to live to 87.2 years of age, mathematically, it does not make sense for you to wait. I'm letting that sink in for a couple people. A couple people have asked me about this. Kevin, you're always saying we should take it. Does health, does age, does this, does that? I'm talking purely on a mathematical scale. Really, if you don't live to past 90, the government has tricked you into waiting longer so they don't have to pay it out. And really, with inflation and cost of goods going up, it's 90 that you have to live past to make it worth your while. There were a couple comments that came up here about depends how long you live. I think they'll just keep printing, and they might just keep printing, which means inflation will go higher. The 70 should be 32% more than the 66 or 67, 8% per year. That is roughly correct, but those numbers changed about 2 years ago. Interesting comment or two. It's funny because we never seem to run out of money for some other things, but here we are for Social Security, which is not fair because you guys have paid into it. I've paid into it. This should not be something that's run out. It was set up so it wouldn't run out, but there were a couple problems when it was set up. Number one, it was set up under average returns. If anyone could ever pull their head out and understand funds are not in your best interest, average returns are one of the reasons why our Social Security is not going to make it, and it will run out in 2065. There is no more money. What that means is a politician will have to come in and they're going to extend the age of retirement to 75. You're going to exchange the withdrawal point to like 67, 70, and 75. They will probably fund it and go into more debt, which will create higher inflation, so the money is going to be worth less. But again, it was borrowed from in the Clinton era. It was supposed to be paid back, and so the Republicans came in and never paid it back. Pissed off that Clinton would borrow it, but our country was rip-roaring during his time. Pissed off that the Republicans didn't pay it back when they could have. Another failed government program. But the biggest failing is it was going to run out anyway at some point in time, not because less people were contributing, not because the pyramid turned upside down. It's because it was based on average returns, and average returns are not compounding interest. So, you ask me, take it as soon as you can so you get it for as long as you can. All right. I've got a great article that I got from our local KSL News. Finally, an article is like, hey, you've got to take it. You need the benefits. Sooner's better than later. Read through the article. It's really a pretty darn good article. All right. Second thing is the market run over for 2024. And I'll put in there, I'll define a little bit more. Is the bullish market run over for 2024? What are your thoughts? Is our bullish run over? Are we going to take a 19% yearly return? Will that be higher or lower by the end of the year? Mod says higher. Very interesting. Why higher? Bill said, I'll let you know 2031-24. You got to trade on expectations. You got to invest on expectations. Or you just let it sit and run. So you can't just guess it. Bearish. So it's funny because we talked about this last week. And I found a very interesting article on the best and worst months for the stock market season patterns. And to look at it, the worst months are June, August, September. S&P, they're June and September. NASDAQ is February, June, and September. The June is the sell in May and go away. The September is the quiet time month. It's the S&P 500 most frequent rebalancing month. February is usually just a low month because we have all of the earnings that have come through based on the Christmas numbers, and then it's like the restocking quarter, right? The quarter where you restock. So June, sell in May, go away kind of thing happens. September is the end of the S&P quarter where they have the most rebalancing, and it falls in, it's a bad quarter for quiet time for companies that can't buy their shares at the end of a quarter, so they get a double whammy for the end of a quarter and prior to their earnings. And then February again is usually that we've just had a good run. November, December, January, Christmas numbers came in great, and then we just have a slower month. I usually see April is not one of the better months because they sell, but they're telling me this is a little bit different. And actually, it's probably in March is one of the not so good months or a weak month because people have to sell and create money for taxes. So I just found it interesting because we talked about it just last week that no, the bullish run is probably not over. We are just waiting for certainty. That's the election. That's more rate cuts. Even though Powell stuck his foot in his mouth today, I'm pretty sure it was today, that they weren't going to be aggressive in cutting rates, even though they were just aggressive in cutting rates. Talk about speaking out of both ends, right? So no, the run is probably not over, but this is why the Buffett style of investing is so important. Do the work to find the winners. And protect when the market doesn't realize it. It's really interesting because can anyone tell me what's the biggest winner Buffett's ever had? What is the biggest winner Buffett has ever had in his investing? Someone made a comment, typical Fed, ding dongs. What is Buffett's greatest investment he ever had? Come on, guys, think about it. Greatest investment. He's had to sell the most of it ever in rebalancing a portfolio. Bank of America was number 2. Railroad company, previous to this investment, it was transportation. You had to sell off like 7% once to rebalance a portfolio. But this one, he's had to sell off almost half of his investments, and 400 million recently that's not Bank of America. Bought in 2008. Not Ford. Think technology. We went over this about 3 weeks ago. There you go, Apple. Apple has been Buffett's largest, biggest gainer ever in his investing career, both dollar figure and percentage wise. It's the one where he's had to sell off over 50% of what he owns to rebalance his portfolio. I actually would have thought it was going to be insurance, but it was transportation that was his second largest. At one time, he had to sell off 7% of his transportation to rebalance his portfolio. I'm a strong believer in the Buffett style of investing, finding undervalued stocks that the market will eventually catch up and see the value in them. It doesn't mean the market will get it. And we're not the ones that have billions of dollars to sit and wait for decades for things to come back. That's why we protect with our puts, where if we're waiting, we're lowering our cost basis by making up some of the downward movement to buy more shares for a more explosive upside movement like we had last week in Micron. Last week, I believe it was Thursday, market was up 0.4% on the S&P. I think it was up 0.68% on the NASDAQ. We were up 2.84%. Something like 4 times. Well, 2.84, 7 times the S&P 500 and 4.5 times the NASDAQ gains for the day. We have Baidu finally moving. A lot of time we've made up money on the way down, added shares there. The process works. Don't let a week, a day, a month, a quarter, or even a year ruin you on the stock market. I know houses make a ton of money, but the greatest wealth creation in history is done through the stock market. Keep that in mind. All right. Earnings dates are coming up. We're starting to create our calendar for earnings dates. We will update these, but we're a couple weeks out. I'm starting to pay attention to when earnings are coming out, and we're going to be watching them closely. Earnings are coming up. We have banks earnings coming up, and they do about 3 weeks. Not next week, but the week after, you're going to see some big bank earnings. Then you get into technology, finishes off with retail sales. Not much to go over there. We're still bullish, and when we start to hit that overbought position, we're starting to pay more and more attention to getting protection on. We will probably get some protection on getting into earnings a little bit sooner because, again, we're touching that overbought. And historically, when you get overbought on an index, the market goes through a slight correction, or pullback is the correct word. Not a correction, a pullback. Obviously, same thing for the NASDAQ. All righty. Pretty quiet week. I still think October will end down 2.5%. Not a whole lot of earnings. Nike, I think, is one. Constellation Brands on Thursday. Not a whole lot of economic reports. We will have our average work week, non-farm payroll, but the non-farm payroll is only I think it's 120,000 jobs we're expecting to be created. Non-farm, 135,000 non-farm payroll jobs are expected to be created. So we just do not have no big numbers are expected to come out on Friday. So it truly is a pretty quiet week. Hopefully Feds will just keep their mouth shut. Are you taking protection off? We have most protection off. I've got a couple interesting articles. Best age to file for Social Security. I've got 3 articles on why Tepper's not buying more NVIDIA, even though he thinks it's a great buy and you should. Very amazing article on levels of the chart to watch on NVIDIA for our AI leader. And the funniest article out of all of it is there's still some people that are not invested in NVIDIA. They're underinvested in NVIDIA. And, well, I'm sorry, this one is your higher tech stocks will be affected by the election. Something for all of us. Dang it. I've got an article that says how some people are underinvested in NVIDIA. There it is. Investors are underweight NVIDIA compared to the S&P, and it's costing them. We've got you in NVIDIA. We got you in Meta. Levels on the chart of NVIDIA to watch for a poor third quarter for the AI leader. Obviously, an article here on how your tech holdings will be affected by the election. And last but not least, again, another reason to not like politicians, just crooked how Pelosi and her husband dumped money after they got information. Don't worry, it's not related to just Democrats. It's remarkably interesting how blind trust for Mitt Romney, a Republican, seemed to dump certain stocks just at the right time. So this is a politician problem. It is not a Democrat or Republican problem. All right, guys, any questions for me today? Any questions for me that I can maybe answer for you, or something that you would like to bring up? Any questions you guys have that I can bring up for you? And I apologize for peeking every so often. My wife is texting side outs, 311, 411, 511, 611, telling me who's serving, who's not. All right, I don't see anything coming in. With that said, guys, have a wonderful evening. Kind of neat that I get to watch text coming on how my daughter's playing volleyball today. But I'd much rather be here with you guys, in all honesty. I love my daughter's volleyball games. But this is important. This is important to understand what your money's doing and why. All right, seeing nothing come in. I'm all right, guys. Hey, have a wonderful evening. Appreciate you guys being with me. There is no trade findings and adjustments. Hurley Investments has a Securities and Exchange audit on Thursday, and we will be very busy that day. So we will have no trade findings and adjustments on Thursday. You guys take care. Talk to you in the near future. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.